Hello and welcome to the latest version of some run notes here for you guys. This is actually the notes from Games for Jams 3 or Monsters Under the Bed. The idea here was to create a run that could go one of two dramatically different ways. Oftentimes, when you hire runners for a protection job, it's because something is going to happen, and sometimes nothing happens. And the trick is, well, how do you make that interesting for your players without actually doing anything that's actually threatening? Um, so there's kind of two ways that this can play out, and I've given some ideas mostly on the non-standard way on how this can play out, as opposed to the more normal way. Um, I know I promise that description will make more sense as I get through it. So the idea here is that a Johnson from an that is currently out of town, but has a very basic, a fairly easily to find corporate affiliation, is calling the runners to look into protecting a couple of people of interest to him. Through the meet and most of the other stuff, it is becomes pretty apparent that this is his family, and that he has an express opinion in protecting them. If the runners ask why he is going to the shadows instead of using his corporate connections to do it, it's like, well, in corporate society, sometimes people hire shadow runners to do bad things to people within their own corporation for their own ends and benefits. As such, he currently does not trust those people in his corporation to do it, so he's looking for some additional security. Um, the simple part of the pitch is he wants the runners for for 5 or 7 days, depending upon how you want to run your week. It could just be a work week. It could be the whole week through the weekend. Kind of depends upon how you want to play things out. The protectees are a housekeeper and 1 to 3 children. At least one of the children should be in the angsty teen area, because that makes for some interesting roleplay opportunities later on. If you have a prodigy runner, people sometimes make the 16-year-old Decker that's ridiculously good for no reason that makes sense, and all of that other wonderful thing, which is a fantastic trope to have and to use. But if you have one of those runners on your team, you should endeavor to have one of the children be into similar stuff of that runner and be of around that runner's age, because you're going to be able to use that to leverage a lot of different and interesting situations that Shadowrunners don't normally get involved in. One of the major hooks is the wrong word, hooks will be used later, is one of the main restrictions is that the Johnson wants as little disruption to their lives as possible. This serves two things. One, it sets up a lot more of the interesting things later on, and two, it keeps the runners from just scooping up the family, driving them out into like Glow City, and just sitting on them. It's like, all right, we have a giant fortified position that nobody can approach for 10 miles without us knowing about it. It's like, all right, well, congratulations, here's your money, have a nice day. The Johnson is very upset with you. They are allowed to interact with the family, but the Johnson doesn't want their life influence. Like, yeah, you can go and you can kind of hang around the house, but if you're sitting there, gun at the ready, 24/7, oh my god, time to go, that's a little disconcerting, especially if you make some of the children of the younger side of things, as opposed to just a little bit more understanding. For some of the legwork stuff, a lot of this is going to be fairly easy to find. Going back with the Prodigy Runner, if you have one of those, you could totally get him or her into the school in some of the classes of one of the targets that you are there to protect. It'll give you a opportunity for a whole bunch of eyes on with the student, and it'll let you put your runner through some interesting situations later on, because who doesn't love dodgeball? On the other side of things, you could easily get not quite as teachers or instructors or important people, but unimportant folks like janitors or maintenance. You could probably get one of your normal runners in to perform those tasks. Granted, while they're in there, you're going to hit them with some mundanity later on, but we'll see what's going on there. Since you're going to have the names of the kids, you will easily be able to figure out the names of the father, and that will obviously be the name of the Johnson. If you had other runs in your campaign that involve different aspects of things, you could have the Matrix support find, oh, this our Johnson is in this wing of, I like to use as technology for this run, of as technology, and he has been butting heads against this other guy within as technology. So maybe, is he going to do something against this guy's family to get him to get the Johnson to change some kind of corporate policy as a hostage situation? As this is a protection-oriented run, you will also be able to install additional cameras. You will be able to manipulate the neighborhood security and that kind of thing. A lot of different. They will have full access to the home because they are allowed to be there. But turning the outside world to assist them is another way that runners can increase the security on the house. The physical legwork kind of things, you're gonna have a lot of stuff to do here with the physical because you will need to keep not necessarily 100% eyes on, but you're going to need to keep eyes on your people in their vulnerable times when they're going to and from school, when they're going to and from after school activities, that kind of thing. You're going to want, okay, the housekeeper is going to pick them up from school. We're going to have 2 members of our team and another car just kind of follow them just to make sure nothing goes wrong. We're going to, they got sports tonight, little Tina's recital. Okay, let's have somebody in the audience. Let's have somebody outside, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different opportunities for you to physically be around and observing stuff. And kind of, at the same time, you're going to want to need them to be sneaky about it, because watching 2 people in tactical gear walking around a house on half-hour patrols is going to upset the neighbors. So get them to play down the obviousness of stuff. On the astral, dependent upon how your team is set up and the options they have available to them, this is going to be a pretty decent indicator of which direction your run is going to go. If you have things set up like mana barriers and wards and watcher spirits and that kind of thing, you're going to greatly increase your chance that nothing bad is going to happen because you'll have early alerts and all this other wonderful stuff going on. If you like, you can easily make one of the children of like an awakening age or having a decent chance of magical potential. This can give your awakened individuals on your team some really interesting roleplay opportunities as they talk to this person through a fairly trying time in their life, because it's like, he could be a mage, and then all of a sudden your classes change from being boring stuff. It's like now you gotta start taking magical theory and spirit ethics 101 and stuff along those lines, and all of a sudden that student is no longer with his friends and people that he has gone to school with for forever in his eyes, and is now in all of these other classes with different people. It's a trying time for a child's life, and having your awakened runners help them through that and however they wish is an interesting role play situation that you can kind of come into. A lot of this information should be provided by the Johnson or fairly easily accessible, because the Johnson wants nothing bad to happen because this is his family. So while simple things like, all right, here's the address, here's their school, here's a bit of their school schedule, that kind of thing, yeah, you got that, no problem. The kids' comm codes, sure, you got that. Some comm codes for some of their friends and their families, sure, you can have that. But things like the layout or building plans of the school, you won't have that, because why would the Johnson have that kind of information? Stuff like that. They can still find out, and they can still do recon and other legwork kind of stuff like that. But most of it should be pretty easily accessible. the things that are not directly controllable by the Johnson, like his opponents within the corporation that he may have beat out for a promotion. He might not volunteer that information, or maybe he doesn't know that that person secretly holds a grudge against beating him out for it that the runners can find out in other ways. The first monkey wrench that the runners are going to encounter, and this is where a lot of the mundane roleplay opportunities are going to come into play. Um, in the direction that if this run goes to not be a crazy knockdown, drag out gunfight, well, how do you keep it interesting? For one, we're going to start with the housekeeper. Whichever corporation you use, like I like S Technology because they have a lot of scary things associated with them, with blood magic and Aztec Amazonian War and that kind of thing. Um, but using one of the Japanicorps is also really good because the idea being the housekeeper does not speak English is is a pretty good way to manipulate the runners into getting what they want to do. Say you have a face that does a bunch of stuff, but doesn't speak Spanish. All of a sudden, your street samurai, who is the only person from Aslan that does have Spanish, he's got to take a lot more of the social brunt of interacting with this housekeeper because housekeeper doesn't. Sorry, no comprende inglés. You know that's the end of your face is talking to her. Um, but she is going to not necessarily humiliate the runners, but manipulate the runners into doing all kinds of irrelevant menial tasks. The sink has a leak. I need it fixed. Meanwhile, the leak is, a small drip underneath the pipes that is dripping into um a bucket that needs to be emptied out every once in a while. Not like a big deal, but this is her house. She's going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. When I ran it on games for GMs, at one point she handed the one runner an apron and a bucket to clean the kitchen because she was going to go watch Telemundo and you're here to help, so here, help. Um, it's the idea is to put these runners who take things for granted, like I can run 40 meters in 3 seconds, leap off of 10-story buildings, and shoot the wings off a fly at 20 paces, to then be like, how good are you at fixing pipes? I need you to change light bulbs in the house, that kind of thing. Just take them out of their element and give them a lot of different interesting opportunities to figure like, oh god, okay, so I have industrial mechanic. Can I fix that pipe? Like, yeah, sure. Go ahead and roll it. Um, Secondarily, if somebody does a little flirting with him, play up the hot housekeeper tropes from all over TV and stuff, where she is flirtatious and will show an interest in the runners, and then play that off in different ways. Maybe she pits the one runner who showed an interest in her against one of the other runners uh, who doesn't want to do her chores. It's like, oh, the lawn needs mowed. Let's get the orc out there to do it. But the orc's like, no, screw that. I'm not doing that. And then the dwarf or whatever that was, you know, into the housekeeper's like, no man, just come on, help me out. Like, look how hot she is. Like that kind of thing. I don't really mean that to downplay people in those professions or promote stereotypes, but you guys know what I mean. Um, the second wrench is going to be the kids. Hopefully, you have a runner that falls into that whole prodigy role and can be stuck into the school to help them out, or that kind of thing. Um, but go and find all of your high school tropes and things that you remember hating from high school and make the runners do it. The first time I ran this game on the hub, there was a mage that went in and obviously he ended up going to gym class following the person they were there to protect. And well, what happens in gym class and tropes? Dodgeball. So there was a couple of quick defense tests from the PC. There was a couple of quick throwing weapon tests from the a couple of quick throwing weapons tests from the kids that were playing, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, you did pretty good in dodgeball. As the giant troll was the one throwing the ball at you. Um, Maybe have them do a read your book report in your English class. Get up in front, have the charisma to Decker that's socially awkward. Do a book report on Carl Combat Mage because they have a Carl Combat Mage knowledge skill, and let them roll that knowledge skill and maybe a performance test to see how well it goes. Science class, are you any good with chemistry? All right, well, good luck. Let's hope it doesn't blow up in your face. And then the second side of things should be the child that's in their teenage years should play up every single one of those teenage children tropes. He should hate school, should hate authority, should know everything. Really just kind of sell every stereotype you can think of. Like, maybe if the family goes out shopping, he goes into the Six World equivalent of Hot Topic and spends all his time in there looking at things that are black and spiky and metal. Kind of, some people will be like, man, that was totally me in high school. And it'll hopefully bring back a lot of those feelings to them. Um, then there's the what happens when this is a bad thing happens. Maybe your team wasn't really high with all of their home security things. Maybe they got kind of lax on the last day. Maybe given as you're running this in a home game situation, you have the opportunity to say on your first session, start up, do a bunch of the legwork, meet the family, go through a day or two of humiliating your players in fun and interesting ways that hopefully they enjoy doing these menial tasks. It's like, okay, next week we'll pick up where we left off, and when you come in left off next week, you have maybe half a day or so of the mundane housewife stuff. Hopefully to let their guard down. When I ran it for games for GMs, two of the runners went off to get a drink at a bar that was like a half hour away. That would have been prime opportunity for an opposing runner team to come in and make a move on the family. Now it's like, oh crap, we are over here. We're in no position to help. We only have half our strength there, and when I ran it, it was not the physical half of the strength. The strength that was there was the magic and the matrix support, and bad things happen. I had the idea when I was going to. One of the ways I would get the kids is have a mage just kind of levitate them and just lift them straight out the window out into the outside world, which if you have wards or mana barriers up, kind of prevents that from happening if your astral security is there. You could have a number of things that go wrong. A runner team that uses a Honda Artemis that is dressed up like a Knight Errant cruiser, but give your runners enough of a hint that something is up with that cruiser when it shows up to pick the kids up from school because there's been a accident or something along those lines. It's like, kids, we need you to come with us. There's something has gone wrong and your housekeeper is in the hospital. It's like, well, how do the runners find out that information? One of them's with the housekeeper, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, whoa, something is up. Maybe the fake KE squad car that they use to try and kidnap the kids has the same number as a squad car they know that is patrolling the area, or maybe if they have a beat cop contact, it's the same number as his squad car happens to be. Something along those lines. Give them that hint that, all right, something is going down and we need to move. Should the team fail to protect the kids, it's the Johnson is going to assume that it's like, yo, you need to go get them because you failed your job. But if they don't want to for whatever reason, maybe they negotiate to be like, oh well, now the parameters of the job have changed. Now it's a recovery job, not a protection job, so our money needs to go up. That kind of thing. Who knows? But if they don't go to get the kids, or if maybe you want to introduce a powerful enemy, maybe here's your opportunity to have things go horribly wrong. If the runners don't immediately jump to going after them, then you can introduce this guy as a powerful enemy. Or maybe if um, things go wrong, like I don't want you to force bad things to happen to this guy's family because that just feels cheap when the runners try to do stuff and things go horribly wrong. But this is not the way that has gone the two times that I've run this because it was more interesting do to do humiliating things basically with the runners, and the runners had fun being like, "Oh crap! Like, how do I how do I fix pipes?" And let me. No, they're going past the gym class that's outside, and they were going to play dodgeball, but the runner and the protectee is they're skipping class because that's what kids want to do. I'm gonna magic fingers the dodgeball from the jock kid to hit the teacher in the back to distract him. Like that kind of stuff is fun. Um, which is what is really important here is to have fun, not necessarily to overcomplicate things with a lot of rolls. Like in the dodgeball example I had, it was like two quick dodge tests and two quick throwing weapon tests of some strength to see whether or not you get pegged with the dodgeball from the troll. And there was some etiquette tests to get through the hallways because you're the new kid in the school. The school bully is going to find you, and he's going to make sure you know the lay of the land, that kind of thing. Um, should the worst happen, it could be a runner team of equal strength to your runners. It can be a couple of gang members. Probably not like an actual gang because that's not something you would really find where they live in this like A rating zone, which is a really important factor that I probably should have mentioned actually. Um, Putting it in a higher rating zone, like at least an A, is going to increase the ambient security, which will both work for and against the runners because when you have this nice community that all of a sudden you're getting reports of, hey, there's 1313 down the lane there. They have this troll that's hanging around a whole lot that I've never seen before. They're going to get some some security calls about that just because people are like, I've never seen him before. This is weird. So there's ways to go in there to make it more awkward for your runners without complicating it with dice rolls. That being said, I am super interested to hear how this goes for you guys if you choose to run it or what things you may have changed. It is the game I ran for Games for GMs 3, so the video description is going to have a link to at least the first part of that game so that you can follow that through if you wanted to watch how it played out for them. I sadly don't have the version from the Runner Hub when I ran it over there to link as well, so you could see that if you wished. However, if you wish, you can contact me on Twitter at GM underscore Bamce, BAMCE, or GMBamce at gmail.com. I am looking forward to spending some time to actually getting Facebook and all that other happy shenanigans of social media set up. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time.